Before the magic ever lit up the big screen, it started with a single spark, an idea that would transform fantasy cinema forever. In the late 1990s, as the Harry Potter books began enchanting readers around the world, Hollywood studios quickly realized they were witnessing something extraordinary. J.K. Rowling's wizarding world wasn't just a fleeting craze, it was a cultural phenomenon. But who was the first to recognize the boy wizard's cinematic potential? And what early decisions shaped the legacy of what would go on to become one of the highest-grossing film franchises in history? Let's dive in and uncover how the Harry Potter films were imagined and ultimately brought to life.
From books to blockbusters, the early spark.
When Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone first hit shelves in 1997, it didn't instantly become a blockbuster. But word of mouth spread like wildfire, and by the time the third book arrived in 1999, the series had turned into a worldwide phenomenon. Children, parents, and even adults who hadn't touched a fantasy novel in years were lining up outside bookstores at midnight just to get their hands on the next installment. That kind of buzz naturally drew Hollywood's attention. In 1999, Warner Brothers made the calculated decision to purchase the film rights to the first 4 Harry Potter books for about $1 million. By today's standards, it was a modest sum, but back then it represented a bold gamble on a children's book series. Warner Brothers understood that Harry Potter wasn't just a story, it was an entire universe. The characters, the settings, the conflicts, all of it brimmed with cinematic potential. And with a fan base already massive and expanding rapidly, the stage was set for something historic. One of the biggest challenges in the early stages was making sure the film stayed faithful to the tone and spirit of the books. J.K. Rowling was famously protective of her creation, and as part of her contract with Warner Brothers, she was granted significant creative input, particularly when it came to early script development and casting choices. Steven Spielberg was initially approached to direct the first film. However, he reportedly envisioned an animated adaptation, with Haley Joel Osment providing the voice of Harry. Rowling flatly rejected the idea. She was determined that the movies be live action, set in Britain, and feature British actors in all the major roles. That insistence safeguarded the authenticity of the franchise right from the start. In the end, the studio chose Chris Columbus, best known for Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire. Columbus had a unique gift for capturing childlike wonder, and he was eager to craft a world that was magical yet grounded. His vision lined up with Rowling's, and with the expectations of fans eager to see the wizarding world brought to life.
The search for the perfect Harry and wizards.
Casting the trio of Harry, Ron, and Hermione was one of the most challenging parts of the early production. The filmmakers knew that the actors chosen would become the face of the franchise for years to come. Thousands of young actors auditioned across the UK, but it was 11-year-old Daniel Radcliffe who eventually landed the role of Harry Potter. Interestingly, Radcliffe's parents were initially hesitant about letting him audition due to the time commitment and media attention. However, producer David Heyman personally reached out and convinced them. Rupert Grint, who had no prior acting experience, sent in a self-made audition tape that showed his quirky charm perfect for Ron. Emma Watson impressed the casting team with her intelligence and confidence, making her a natural fit for Hermione. The chemistry between the three was immediate, and their growth on screen mirrored the coming-of-age journey that made the books so relatable. Bringing the wizarding world to life required more than just casting. It meant building an entire magical reality. The production team, led by designer Stuart Craig, combed through the books for inspiration. They constructed physical sets wherever possible, giving places like the Great Hall, Diagon Alley, and the Gryffindor Common Room a tangible, immersive quality. Iconic locations across the UK were transformed into key sites from the story. Gloucester Cathedral, Alnwick Castle, and various London streets became real-world pieces of Rowling's fantasy. The choice to rely on practical effects and authentic sets, rather than the heavy CGI used in many early 2000s films, gave Harry Potter a grounded, enduring visual style. Another brilliant decision was bringing on legendary composer John Williams, famous for Star Wars and Jurassic Park, to create the film's score. His Hedwig's theme instantly became synonymous with magic and mystery, elevating the movie's tone and becoming an essential part of the franchise's identity.
The Philosopher's Stone premiere. A cultural moment.
After nearly 2 years of casting, set design, and filming, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone finally premiered in November 2001. The film was met with widespread praise from both fans and critics. It preserved the heart and structure of the book while inviting newcomers into the magic of the wizarding world. At the box office, it was a phenomenon, earning nearly $1 billion worldwide. But more importantly, it proved that fantasy films could resonate with all ages and achieve massive commercial success without compromising on storytelling. The triumph of the first movie laid the groundwork for a decade-long cinematic journey. 7 more films would follow, capturing the emotional peaks and epic battles of Rowling's saga, and culminating in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 2 in 2011. 8 films, 10 years, one unforgettable legacy. The creation of the Harry Potter movies wasn't just a filmmaking achievement. It was the birth of a cultural revolution. The journey of Harry Potter from page to screen wasn't only about magical creatures, wand battles, and enchanted castles. It was about a deep commitment to storytelling, groundbreaking filmmaking, and world-building on a scale cinema had never seen before. When Daniel Radcliffe was cast as Harry, and newcomers Emma Watson and Rupert Grint were chosen as Hermione and Ron after an equally exhaustive search, the trio became the emotional core of the series. As they grew up on screen, millions of fans grew alongside them, watching them transform from wide-eyed schoolchildren into battle-scarred young adults. That authentic growth added an irreplaceable emotional depth to the films. Beyond the trio, the supporting cast was made up of some of Britain's greatest acting talent: Alan Rickman, Maggie Smith, Richard Harris, and later Michael Gambon, Helena Bonham Carter, Ralph Fiennes, Gary Oldman, and many more. This foundation in seasoned British theater and film actors gave the franchise a gravitas that most fantasy series could never achieve.
Vision and direction, shaping the tone across a decade.
Each Harry Potter film was part of a single saga, yet carried its own unique tone. This was made possible by the rotating directors, each bringing a distinct flavor to the franchise. Chris Columbus, who directed the first and second films, laid the foundation. He emphasized innocence, wonder, and childlike adventure. His vision established the look and feel of Hogwarts while introducing the characters in a warm, welcoming way. Then came Alfonso Cuarón, who directed the third film. With Prisoner of Azkaban, he infused maturity and a more artistic, darker edge, experimenting with inventive camera angles, time loops, and moody aesthetics. Mike Newell took on the fourth installment, Goblet of Fire, approaching it with a grounded tone that highlighted teenage emotions and political intrigue. Finally, David Yates gave the series its finishing touch. Directing the final 4 films, from the 5th through the 8th, he carried the story through its most complex and mature phases. Yates leaned heavily into themes of resistance, mortality, and sacrifice, raising the stakes higher than ever before. What's remarkable is that, despite the changes in direction, the series never lost its sense of continuity. Each film felt like the next chapter in a single, larger book, a true testament to the producers, especially David Heyman, and to J.K. Rowling's steady involvement throughout the decade-long journey.
Crafting the magic. Set design, practical effects, and innovations.
One of the series' most enduring legacies is its dedication to practical effects and meticulous set design. Under the guidance of Stuart Craig, the production team didn't simply depend on green screens. They built Hogwarts piece by piece. From the floating candles in the Great Hall to the shifting staircases and the fully realized Diagon Alley, every detail was crafted to feel authentic and lived in. The films combined real UK locations, such as Gloucester Cathedral and Alnwick Castle, with purpose-built sets at Leavesden Studios, which today houses the Warner Brothers Studio Tour London. These spaces weren't just backgrounds. They became immersive worlds, enveloping both the actors and the audience in the magic. While CGI was certainly used, especially as the series went on, it was almost always anchored in physical reality. The Basilisk in Chamber of Secrets, a full-scale animatronic. Buckbeak in Prisoner of Azkaban, a combination of CGI and animatronics, complete with real feathers. The result was a tactile sense of texture and realism that still holds up today. Visual effects houses like Framestore and Double Negative also brought cutting-edge digital artistry to the franchise, evolving alongside it. From the simple spell effects of the early films to the massive, complex magical battles of Deathly Hallows. And then there was the music. John Williams set the tone for the entire saga with his score for the first 3 films. His iconic composition, Hedwig's Theme, remains one of the most instantly recognizable soundtracks in cinema history. The music captured whimsy, wonder, and an undercurrent of tension, perfectly reflecting Harry's journey.
A cultural force. How Harry Potter changed Hollywood.
The influence of the Harry Potter films stretched far beyond their box office numbers. To begin with, they redefined the very blueprint of modern franchises. The bold choice to split the final book into 2 movies, Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2, set a trend that other blockbuster series soon followed. Think Twilight, The Hunger Games, and even Marvel's Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. Secondly, Harry Potter breathed new life into the fantasy genre in Hollywood. Before Hogwarts, studios were hesitant to gamble on large-scale magical epics. But after the Wizarding World's success, alongside The Lord of the Rings, fantasy suddenly became a safe and lucrative investment. The franchise also transformed merchandising and immersive entertainment. From Lego sets and video games to theme parks like the Wizarding World of Harry Potter at Universal Studios, it expanded into a 360-degree experience. Fans didn't just watch the world, they could step inside it and live it.
Legacy and lasting impact. Why the magic never faded.
It's been more than 20 years since the first movie premiered, yet the mark of Harry Potter can still be felt everywhere. Today, Warner Bros. Continues to grow the Wizarding World through Fantastic Beasts, video games such as Hogwarts Legacy, and stage productions like The Cursed Child. Though these have received mixed responses, they prove that the hunger for magic hasn't faded. The Harry Potter films were never just simple adaptations. They were a phenomenon. With thoughtful casting, imaginative direction, meticulous world-building, and heartfelt storytelling, they became far more than entertainment. They became woven into our cultural fabric. Their true legacy isn't defined solely by box office earnings or merchandise sales. It lives in the way they shaped a generation's ideas of courage, loyalty, and resilience. It lives in how they inspired young readers to become lifelong learners. And it lives in their reminder that even the most ordinary person has the power to change the world. From a cupboard under the stairs to Hollywood's grandest stage, the Harry Potter films remain a timeless reminder that magic endures, as long as we choose to believe in it.